Coach, we can move now into a segment that we call start, sub, or sit. And Coach, if
awesome.
you're ready to go.
I've been training for this, guys. I've been training for
Okay. So we know that Denver, you guys are just outside of Denver, and Denver is a great sports town. And we're going to take the Nuggets off the table here in this one because I know that might be the easy answer. But if you have an afternoon or an evening to sit and watch another Denver sports team, start, sub, or sit, the Rockies, the Broncos, or the Avalanche?
Okay. Good one. It is a good sports town. We got some good sports. I'm a big NFL fan. I'm going to start the Broncos. If you've ever been to Denver, you know that's a religion out here.
Yeah.
It's not the team I grew up with, but when you're in Denver, you kind of naturally follow them anyway. And so I would start the Broncos. I'm going to sub the Rockies. I was a baseball guy growing up, and I'm going to sit the Avalanche, even though they're probably the best team out of all of them. I know almost nothing about hockey. It has never spoken to me. And I've been to a game, and it was cool, but it's just not in my element, the hockey. So it's my own shortcomings, but I'm going to have to sit them.
All right, Pat.
Okay, Coach, moving back to the floor, my start sub sit is you have a dynamic five, a versatile 5-man, and ways to use him or how you would prefer to use him in sort of an open 5-out offense. Start sub sit, we have passer in terms of maybe throwing it to him the elbow or the top and running split cuts around him. As, let's say, a driver where maybe he's initiating some DHOs, he's also moving the ball, or a screener, pick and rolls, away screens, getting him roll and slip into the rim.
Yeah, that is such an impossible question to answer. I have to start like all three of them. So I love training. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there I go. Can't even answer the second one. It's a hard one because if you have a versatile 5, in theory, we hope that he can do all of those things. We're absolutely using him in all of those capacities. So under pressure, I will have to say, I'm going to start the drive. And the reason is we've found a lot of success with having sort of slightly smaller, quicker 5s guarded by the traditional sort of larger X5 in our conference. And we've had a lot of success with those guys being versatile. And one of those things is driving it either from short drives or even if the guy's capable, put him out in the perimeter and making those big guys chase him around out there on the perimeter and using them like a perimeter player, I think puts the defense in a troublesome situation. So I'm going to take the drive because I like the pressure that puts on the defensive system who's trying to guard that versatile 5. Secondly, I suppose I'll take the passer because I think, again, if he can initiate and is skilled enough to make good passes, obviously we want to capitalize on that. If he's a guy that can drive and he can pass, you're gonna have a hard time matching up with that guy. He's becoming a matchup nightmare for you. So insofar as he's capable and skilled enough to make those reads and passes, I'm gonna sub that one. And then I guess I have to sit the screening, even though we have kind of a half-baked offense right now with no, ball screens or, wide pin downs or anything else. But if I got to choose, I guess I have to sit that one.
Okay.
In terms of driving, if you do have a 5 that can drive, how are you with the other 4 guys? How are you looking to use them around the drive?
First off, you need to have enough shooting so that you have space to drive. That's a no-brainer. But I like 2 things with the guys that aren't great shooters. Well, one thing with guys that aren't great shooters, I do like to dive cut them on drives every time, not necessarily, but if a guy is not going to help you spreading the floor and yet he's out there, I think there's some value in getting those guys. I'm going to assume that if he can't shoot it, that he is pretty good as a downhill player. Mm-hmm. And therefore, regardless of position, we'll look to explore to use a guy like that can maybe set a ball screen and roll, even if he's small, could dive cut on penetration or off a post feed so that he's constantly going downhill. And like even, a few years back, one of our best players that's come through here, a point guard that we had, is a big, powerful kid, 6'2", 190 pounds, and people just flew off of him like he's Derrick Henry. And he had this knack. He brought it in with him. We didn't teach him any of it, but he couldn't shoot a lick his first couple of years, but he would time his catches so that, say you're going against a helping recover defense and this guy's helping because he's a non-shooter. By the time he turns to come and close out to him, this kid had caught it, had 3 steps going to the basket, and he's on a full head of steam on his catch. And he would just draw fouls right and left off of this. So we started using that and go, God, he's really good at this. Let's study it. And then we've tried to help coach some other similar type players into similar skills as a result. And literally he taught us this. And so those would be ways I'd use, those kids. If you watch our film, we're pretty good at kind of back cuts along the baseline and punishing defenses for losing vision. I think vision is one of the harder things to do defensively. And especially if you've got like top down penetration and a guy's in the corners, the eyeballs naturally are going to look up at the ball and naturally lose vision of those guys in the corners. So we've gotten pretty good with cutting along the baseline. And again, you get, 2 or 3 of those a game, and those are just easy baskets. They go a long way.
Yeah. Just a quick, with those cuttings or those dive cutters, I mean, I guess that was my follow-up. Are you trying to place them in those corners? Is it just wherever they naturally end up to cut? Or if it's strong side, don't cut, or backside cut, is there any sort of rule or that you're putting on that? Or is it just your strength is cutting, so just cut?
General rule would be your strength is cutting, so just cut. And I would try not to overcomplicate it too much. Though, if we're running sets, then we're going to try to put those guys in a specific spot. Maybe it's up at the, so you get a 45 dive cut, that kind of thing, and strategically place them, or you get them along the baseline or the short corner where, they can have a quick back cut to the rim, those sorts of things. We're generally a continuity offense, which means you're not always controlling where guys are in spots. So now we need to play off of concepts. And I like making personnel based decisions on those things as a part of your role declaration is, hey, you're not great at this. So let's look for every opportunity to do that instead, which would, for those kids would be like a dive cut. Right. Yeah. I lean more that way.
All right, Coach, my next start sub sit for you. We're going to talk about like after a timeout and you're looking to get a trap you're on defense here. Mm-hmm. So start sub sit, 3 different ways to try to get a trap and a steal. First would be on a pass. So first pass, you're going and trapping that pass. Second option is on that first pick and roll, whatever they do, you're trapping the ball screen. Or the third will be you're just run and jump in the ball handler as soon as the ball comes in bounds. So need a steal, first pass, pick and roll, or run and jump the ball handler.
Okay, so I'm going to start the ball screen blitz because that's probably in terms of our defensive package, the most common one that we'll use. So that would be the easiest call for us during a game. I will sub probably running at a guy, right off the bat, but I'll put a caveat to that, which is it kind of depends on who he is too. Like, we would prefer to run at the guy who we want to run at to get it out of his hands and probably deny it back to him in that situation and try to disrupt that way. I think trapping first pass can be really good too, for obvious reasons, right? You've drawn something out of your timeout and you've come out and probably need to put it on a certain spot, and trapping it can just bust that all up. So I think they're all 3 great ideas. The first 2 I would say would be more directly in line with our package defensively. Like we could call that without a timeout, just on a dead ball, either one pretty easily. The other one we could do out of a timeout.
Okay. My question, your start, the pick and roll, how much do you work on those kind of special situations in practice? And I guess what would be like maybe the backside rotations, you go trap it, and how aggressive are you in the triangle behind the pick and roll?
Yeah, I'm really aggressive, but we try. That's one thing, in general, we pay a lot of attention to the turnover margin in games, and we try to own that. And our defensive system is built around some level of pressure. And therefore you have to be pretty good with your rotations, and you've got to work on them a lot. As you know, we play out of concepts. So I watch NBA games, and I feel like that for whatever reason, their spacing's immaculate, almost to the point of being predictable, where your rotations can almost be very scripted. I find that if you're trying to mess the game up in a college game and you're trying to track people in situations, not that it doesn't come with predictable spacing, but I think that you've got to be able to prepare to play out of concepts more than out of a scripted rotation. For me, like the closest man concept on your rotations is critical. You've got to be able to communicate in real time where two guys are running towards the ball, and the first guy to call it takes it, calls ball, takes ball, and the other guy peels off of that. Because ultimately you're just going to find yourself in these sort of messy situations that didn't look like they did in practice. So we don't script rotations like that. We call it a party, and we want everybody to join the party. So I think taking up space on the trap is first part. So the three in the triangle need to, depending on the spacing, of course, we'll just say take 3 steps to the ball. Everybody needs to close the gaps in between and shorten the distance. And so they can't get something in the middle, and then be ready to spray out, call ball, take ball, fly around until we have everything covered. And so that's in general our concept.
With that concept with the roll, then is it just the closest man will take the roll? You're not saying the guy on the baseline take the roll?
On the trap situation you're talking about?
Yeah, on the trap one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be, I guess we'd have to look at a whiteboard to tell you. But again, like if we're going to blitz this ball screen, we don't know going out of the timeout if it's going to be a side ball screen on a naked side or a middle ball screen with a wing field. So again, we've got to go off the concepts. It would be the closest guy. Typically there's one guy sort of in the middle. Yeah. At any given spacing, and it would be that guy's responsibility to go up and take the roll. And we would want to get, in a ball man position to prevent the quick dump pass into a short roll or a slip or that sort of thing. Or a worst case, you're there right on the catch to pressure the ball.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Well, it does. And maybe I'd like to just, if I throw a scenario at you, if it's a middle ball screen and he's going to the single side, so there's 2 behind the ball, is that then, like you said, they're getting 3 steps to the ball and it's closest man, or will you say we want that corner man coming up to take the roll?
Yeah. So good question. So in a general term, we generally will have the lowest guy be the most responsible for that tag. There are scouting situations that won't be the case. Yeah. Or for instance, we know the guy's in a short roll, or the guy at the wing is the guy we'd rather leave, those sorts of things. So honestly, when we're actually teaching it at the beginning, we'll just have both of them tag the roll, because now we know that they're engaged in the ball screen, and then we'll kind of refine that as we get closer to it. But in the trap situation, it would be the furthest guy, the guy in the corner is who you'd want. Now, the guy guarding the wing, again, he's joining the party. He's coming up towards the ball. And depending on where the ball screen is set, he may be, taking that guy up top, or at least for a period of time. But ultimately, in terms of, so the guy can't get a catch with a foot in the paint, it's going to be the furthest guy away. Okay. And we'll just force that. I just think it's pretty simple. You just make the offense throw the hardest pass, that big long cross skip that you have the most time to recover from. And so we'll leave that guy alone the longest, and we need to be aggressive off of him.
Okay. Yeah. Coach, just quickly, the other side of the ball, then if you're getting trapped in, let's say, a middle ball screen offensively, do you prefer your 5? I guess it's going to depend on the 5 skill set, obviously, but do you want him putting pressure on the rim by hard rolling, and you have your other 3 offensive players being the outlets out of the trap, or do you like maybe a short roll and letting him make a decision to spray out?
Ideally, I'd love to have the guy either slip or short roll it. And if he's your 5 that can make a decision, that's ideal. That's great.
Sure.
Now you get, if he's not a 5 that can make a decision, then we got to get somebody else up there, or he catches and should know his rules that he's not now, going to turn and drive it. He's looking to skip it out off of that catch. Either one's fine, but that's just got to be personnel based.
Absolutely. All right, Pat, want to bring us home?
Yeah. Okay, Coach. Our last one. Start, sub, sit. How you want to attack the defense going under in a ball screen? Start, sub, sit the rescreen just to flip it, or maybe just have the big season go under, just slip out, maybe try to get some confusion and have the guard try to attack. Or the last one, pop the big and try to get to a secondary action, maybe a handoff with someone else or a handoff back with the guard, but getting to some sort of then secondary plays.
Yeah, good. Okay, so I'm going to start the rescreen. I like the rescreen a lot. I think I just think it's, if done well, I just think it's really tough to guard and punishing. And you can do that with playmaking guards that don't shoot it well, that, you're going to get, they're going to go under a lot. And I think that's a nice, simple automatic for our kids to pick up. It doesn't take a lot of thinking. You can make a simple call as well that you can have. So I like that as a start. I think I'm going to sub the slip out. This one's close though. I think there's something to be said for both of them. The slip out, I like the unpredictability of setting screens and not setting screens and really not knowing if you're going to get set. You ghost these screens and they can be really valuable skills to have, but then if they're too predictable, they're not that tough to guard anymore and you adapt pretty quickly. So I do think that there needs to be sort of a unpredictability factor. And I like slipping it because I like the driving lane that it creates and the variability of your actions on that. I guess I'd have to sit the secondary action, although I think that, in certain circumstances that could be the best answer as well. Right. I think that's good. And again, back to like versatile bigs, like you got roll pop guys that can legitimately do both and, dribble and, play off another dribble at action or something like that. That can be just a great way to keep the ball moving and, not get fixated on a single action when the ball stops moving. Yeah. And that's the danger of rescreening or doing some of these other things, is that the ball is now stagnated. So that's a really tough one. I'd have to go in that direction right there, I guess. But good question. You guys are good at this.
Coach, you got one? Okay.
Yeah. With the rescreen, what are you teaching the guard?
We want to attack and drag the first one out so that our bigs got a chance to take one step away and then come back up for the rescreen. And we're telling the big to rescreen at more of a flat angle on the second one, typically.
Okay.
And so the guard then should have a very quick setup to the second ball screen where his job is essentially to pull that defender out to him, get him leaning in the wrong direction, and then get him leaning in the wrong direction and then attack off of that downhill more than at a lateral angle, if that makes sense. And then your reads are your reads. We love to get downhill off of that second ball screen or get a quick single dribble dump off to a short roll for your big, if we have that pocket. But that's the setup of the second screen, I think, is important. It happens really quick. But and then knowing that we want to go downhill off the second.
In terms of, like you said, when you mentioned you don't want to stagnate too much, but on that second rescreen, if they are able to get under, will you rescreen again? Are you patient with it? Like if they go under 4 times, we rescreen 4 times. Or it's kind of line on that.
Generally, no. Generally that's just too much. But in certain circumstances, yes. So like if we're out of a timeout, we might, or we're getting late into a game, and we know what they're going to do off of this ball screen. They're going to try to go under until they just can't anymore. We might just put 2 guys in a 2-man game and just let them play off of it until they get something that they want. in general, I could stand that. I don't want the guy dribbling back and forth as a habit, over the course of an entire game. So it would be more of a special situation for me.
Okay.
Brady, just my last technical question. I think because in the college game, when a ref sees a rescreen and there's any sort of contact, it's like Christmas for them to call an offensive foul, and they get really excited. So how do you work on the bigs not getting called for an offensive foul on that second rescreen?
If you watch this play, you probably think we don't work on it. That's a good question. That's a hard one, but we set a lot of these flat ball screens. So usually we pick up a lot of fouls early on, and then a guys over the course of the year figure out how to do it better. We put the onus on the guard to run his man into the screen, and we put the ownership on the big to stop before contact. And as we know, good screeners are always illegal screeners. So there's a very fine line there. And I don't know that I have the perfect answer.
Sure.
I can't keep my team out of foul trouble, so I can't keep anybody else's either. So just stop a little sooner.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes the best thing on a rescreen is he goes under, and on the second rescreen, you just start rolling, and it's an illegal, but Europe, I know they're able to get away with that more, but college game, not so much.
Yeah. And I tell you, I'm with you. And the officials do seem to love that one.
Oh,
yeah. You can see it coming a mile away.
Exactly. So, well, Coach, you're off the start sub sit hot seat. That was a lot of fun. So thanks for going through those scenarios with us.